Hey everyone, Stegar here and welcome back to Fairview. In today's episode we're going to be working on an industrial area between the new residential development that we built in the last episode and some of the industrial stuff that we built earlier in the series. So the first thing I did was moved over to this area that's alongside one of the main roads in the city, and I decided to work on this area first as I plan to release a bus ride video in a few weeks time, and in order for that to be looking good I sort of need to have the whole route of where that bus is going to drive through filled out so that the city looks complete even though there are parts of it that aren't. And here I was just placing out a few small industrial buildings and then moving over to this area and using this vanilla building twice and changing the colours with the painter mod, as you'll see me do in a second, just to some sort of brownish colour, or I don't know which colour I end up keeping. I do end up keeping that one, but just using that to try and make them look better, as sometimes the colours on vanilla buildings aren't always that great. I mean, the models aren't always that great either, but sometimes I just try and use them to reduce the need to have a billion props and buildings and things in my series. But here I was just placing down some trees behind this area, and I think I ended up using the tree and props mod, vehicle and tree props mod, to convert some of these trees, and that was mainly just for a testing purpose, to test out how that mod worked. And then moving over to this bus depot that we built in like episode 11 or 12 or something, and I didn't really detail it much at the time or at all, so was just adding a few more buses and then coming over here and placing them as cars. For some reason they wanted to float at first, but I fixed that up using Move It and using the ground alignment tool to ensure that they were placed correctly on the ground. I mean, there's some weird terrain differences in that area, as you saw with those floating buses, but I sort of moved those buses to hide the fact that there were those weird terrain differences. And here I was just moving over to the Shell station, where I never really detailed in the last episode, and was just placing down some of these curb props here and creating a little bit of vegetation in between the main building and the main road, and also putting some cars behind it that are just parked up for various reasons, and coming along with these fallen leaf decals under these trees so that it actually looks and feels like autumn, with all the fallen leaves and things just lying around here, and just going over with more of those. And then moving over to a completely different area that we worked on in episode 11, and this end of this bit never really got detailed. I mean, I just sort of filled out some of this area, and it's kind of in part of the area that we work on today, just on the opposite side of the train line, and was just placing down some trucks and things that are parked up to sort of fill up the space. And I think, yeah, I go through with decals and sort of roughen up the terrain a bit. At the moment I think I'm still using the vanilla pavement texture, but I changed that later in the episode to something different that in my opinion looks a lot better than basically just having a one color texture that isn't really that interesting. And here is just placing down this vanilla oil refinery and turning it into procedural objects so that it doesn't function, as we don't really have much industrial demand in the city at the moment. And then you saw me also change it using the color tool and procedural objects to something a bit darker, so it looks a bit more sort of bad, I guess, as you would associate an oil refinery or something with bad pollution. And I put some little smoke generators at the top of some of those chimneys so that it actually looks like smoke is coming out and polluting the air. So I also added some different music to this episode. I got a new music licensing service, so have a bit more variety to pick from than the 10 or 20 songs that I've been using basically throughout my whole channel since about episode 3 or 4 of Fairview, when I first sort of started looking around for music. But Ham got some new subscription and will be using that music a lot more or almost exclusively in the future, but I mean, it's going to take me a while to find decent songs within that, because I think there's like 4,000 songs or something that I can pick from, and obviously not all those songs are just going to magically fit into my videos. And also yeah, and I'm gonna continue using the same intro and outro for the time being in Fairview, as we've only got a couple of episodes left, and I honestly cannot be bothered changing it and finding something new. And like in my editing program, I have it all set up so I can just basically sit cinematics over some pre-marked areas in that music to create the cinematics and make them line up with the music. But in the future we'll change that, and here I was just working on like some little hotel or something along this other road. I imagine that this road that this sits on is sort of like a bypass road that goes around the city so that people don't always have to drive through it. And here we're moving over to working on like a construction site, and I just turned these steel beams into procedural objects and was using that and placing them down and trying to line them up the best I can. I think if you look very closely there's like the tiniest gap, but I was just doing the best that I could with what I had available, and also how much patience I had, I guess, in working with this stuff. And I decided to actually make this a lot larger, so basically just doubled the width of this roof and moved it around and made all the steel columns line up too. And yeah, as you can see, it's sort of like a bit of a finicky mess to try and make it fit nicely, but I think I did a fairly good job here. And now we're just going along and creating sort of a template that I'll use to copy paste this and do it a lot quicker than what I would otherwise have to if I was doing this all by hand without the help of Move It and copying that. And yeah, just using Move It as now the procedural objects integration makes it a lot easier to copy things and manipulate things, whereas before you were sort of limited by the rotation movements of procedural objects, which sometimes didn't work so well when you have stuff on weird angles and it wants to rotate around those weird angles, and it just becomes a big mess. But yeah, here I was just sort of, I think I skipped through a bit of the copy paste stuff because it wasn't all that interesting, and now we're sort of moving on to detailing around this and placing down some gravel decals as well as some little vegetation things that come with the Park Life DLC to make it look like this area has been a little bit unkept, and placing down some random construction props, just some pipes and some crates of bricks or something, and this little construction office and like a few vanilla prop cars that I used the tree and vehicle prop mod to make these into props. And then I didn't really have much else in my subscriptions at this time, so I was just using vanilla props there, or like the props of vanilla cars there, as I couldn't really be bothered going through and finding anything else. And here we're just going down with some expansion joint decals and placing them down sort of in between this construction site at what would seem like a realistic width or gap between them, I guess. And those white lines there were just sort of there as a guide as to where to place them, as I sort of worked that out from a previous attempt that didn't turn out so well, where I was basically just using PO'd lines to try and create expansion joints, since I didn't initially have them in my subscriptions, but I added them, and the PO lines thing turned into a disaster where it was doing a whole lot of weird things. And here we're just placing down like the other side of the construction site with a few more props and things, and some toilets for workers, and like a forklift with some crates. So now we're back, and sort of this part of the episode is going to be focused mainly on a large sort of truck depot with this building behind the other one acting as the main sort of base of all these truck company operations. And you've also got the power lines sitting in the middle, which is an interesting thing, and it means that the trucks sort of have to navigate around them when they're trying to park up for the night when they're not in use or something, or when they've come to drop off their goods to be transported via smaller trucks to other businesses. I mean, The game doesn't do that, but I imagine you'd get the larger trucks bringing stuff into here and the smaller ones distributing it out amongst the businesses in the city, and just placing down some little crates behind this one to try and add a little bit of detail. And I think he might be able to notice that the pavement texture's changed. I mean, there's a bit more detail with this one. It looks a lot rougher than just having the vanilla one, which was basically just a solid colour and didn't look that great. And here I'm just placing down some random crates and things, as you do, to try and make the areas look not so sort of boring and lacking of things, and placing down some decals too. I'm trying to vary these up a bit while having only like 3 to pick from or something, and putting some tire marks at the entrance too. And here we're placing down a rural farm fence and just starting to create a paddock around this area, as I imagine it's on the edge of the city and there's just sort of been used as farm fields until there's a need for something else to be built here, like more warehouses or something. These little sheep things, or cow things, I'm not exactly sure which ones I put down, they're a bit different, but I mean, they're doing some weird things with the concrete, and usually they don't do that, but I just covered that up with surface painter and moved on to putting some little vegetation around this area here. Okay, so now we're jumped over to the live portion of this episode, and this is actually my second time recording it, because the first time I left my mic on mute, which was not a good idea, but anyway, if you're watching this, I haven't this time, obviously. And here's the area that we worked on today. You can see sort of that big industrial thing that I was working on at the far end of this area, and coming right down with the truck yard in the middle, and construction site all through, and these shops in the corner, which, as I mentioned before, are going to be for a bus ride video. Since once this is actually all filled out like this, and the shadows and things have been tuned a little bit, you'll actually be able to see that stuff and go along here. I mean, I did add in these decals just now after recording the bus ride, and just kind of went a bit overboard on this whole area because it looked a bit blank, and now it probably looks a bit too chaotic. But anyway, I might change some of that stuff up soon. And you just got a casual car trying to find a car park somewhere. I don't know where it's going, probably off somewhere random, but anyway, we know how the traffic AI seems to behave with Traffic Manager and other mods installed. But yeah, you've got this nice little bus depot, which is still very sort of under detailed, but anyway. And I also added these crates in along the side after recording this episode. I didn't capture that on camera, as I just wanted a little bit more detail for a cinematic that I took from this angle. You've got this construction site here as well that I built in the episode, and I quite like it. I mean, if you go down quite close, you can like barely see how everything's joined up, and obviously things start disappearing because PO doesn't like that you're like not looking at it or whatever. But yeah, you've got these expansion joint decals down on the ground too, and some other little construction things. But this was sort of one of the main focuses, I guess, was this truck yard and how it sort of interacts with these power pylons that just sort of go through the whole city. And you see some trees and things under here. Hopefully that's not too dangerous. I mean, I tried to keep a little bit of clearance for this, but someone's probably going to say in the comments that that's unsafe or something. I mean, maybe, I don't know. This is supposed to be a fire station though, so if they have any problems with that, I guess it's just fire training or something. Well, no, because it's super dangerous, but I'm just rambling on about some stuff now. Anyway, you got these fallen leaves down here, which there was a cinematic earlier in the episode that sort of showcased these, and it's looking quite nice, and sort of setting that fall feeling for the whole area, and like you're just in a little fall forest and barely even notice that it's city skylines and just think it's real life or something. And yeah, back out to a whole lot of tufts and random things, And this, I think I said in the time-lapse hotel, but this is clearly just a motel. That sits along this road, which is like, if I zoom right out, you'll be able to see it more clearly, since we're actually in a live play and can do this, but it's like the main bypass road that bypasses the city without it going through the downtown, and I guess people could just stop there if they need to take a break for one night after driving between some random place. I mean, there's no like proper highways in this town, so there's probably a better route on a highway that doesn't come through here at all. But anyway, this was just here to bypass the town, and this here, I think it's actually like one of the barracks from the Industries DLC or something, but I'm just using it here as a hotel, as it sort of resembles that whole hotel vibe, as you've got like, or motel, I keep saying hotel, but it's clearly a motel, as you've got the 2 stories with the like, thing out front. I'm losing words now, time to move on to something else, in some farm fields and things. And now onto sort of what is my favourite part of this episode, which, okay, that shouldn't be there in the first version of the live players messing around with this, but that should be sitting over top of, if I can select it, it should be sitting over top of here, but it's not, because I was trying to show something off in the previous recording of this live play, but didn't record the audio, so now I have to do it again and try and explain this again for the second time. But basically these are just little smoke generator things that I placed on top of these chimneys and things to make it look like everything is running and like there's polluting stuff going into the air, and it's a pretty horrible thing. I mean, this is just a vanilla asset, but it honestly doesn't look too bad. I mean, it is from the Industries DLC though, so it's like relatively new compared to like base game assets that came out with the base game, and just some like decals and things behind here. I think I put a like oil truck hidden in here, yeah I did, and it's just kind of sitting there for some reason that I don't know, or when I say sitting there it's floating there, but it's just one of those minor details that you can ignore compared to the bigger picture. And I mean, this area on a whole looks sort of industrial. I mean, that is probably just some sort of processing facility for some grain or something, I don't know. And yeah, I mean, it's nice to get a like ground view of everything that we've worked on though. And now I'm probably going to head over to showing you the bus route, because that's going to be what my next video is focused on. Me just not even talking, just playing some music and sitting in a bus for like 6 or 7 minutes or however long that will be. But if we go into the bus overview, you'll actually see that I highlighted the line that we're going on in this bus ride in red, so you can see it a bit more clearly, and the black ones are just the other lines that I've currently put into the city. I only did this after recording the time-lapse for this episode, and so have not exactly figured out exactly where things are going, but have a general idea, and I think this works. I mean, you've got a bus that sort of parks outside the Safeway, and I guess I don't know why people would want to go there by bus when they're probably going to come back with like some big object that they need a car for, but it's there anyway and can function. I mean, the bus line that we're going on, it sort of comes down here, turns into the train station, and I mean, this is sort of one of my nicer shots from the city, I think, apart from the like bright greeny yellow colour of the avenue, but there's not really anything I can change about that. I'm not even sure why it does that in the first place, but you've got that, and you've got trees in the middle, and that's sort of the main thing, as well as a few sort of evergreen trees in the middle here. I should go back into the little cinematic thing, as well as, okay, I don't know why that did that, but anyway, the bus line sort of carries on through here, past this park with a whole lot of evergreen trees in it, and just BP, Motel, various other things. And okay, I thought I sorted out my AVO settings, but maybe not, and we currently have vanilla vehicles like this, whatever it's called, personal transport thing going through the city. That shouldn't be there though, and just some other cars, and I think it takes a route down like the street or something, and with what I've done with these custom roads, I just took the suburban street from Urbanist and put some sugar maples on it, and it looks quite nice, especially with the sun shafts and stuff showing through, and you sort of get a nice view of that in the bus ride, so shouldn't spoil too much, otherwise you'll have no point in even watching it. But eventually it takes you down past the mall here. This is probably still one of my favourite builds from this series, even though it was like one of my earlier episodes. I just like the way that the roof sort of looks like a shopping mall and looks nice and open and gets some natural light into it. Ignore the glitchiness of the roads being too close together. But yeah, you've got this nice roof and a nice entrance with a whole lot of vanilla props, and I think that's a vanilla building there too, the actual mall entrance, and I put a path through there for it to actually work. But you've also got this bridge over to the parking lot, which I keep showing off at the start of the episodes as like the very first clip that you'll see and would have seen when you started watching this episode, and put a little shop there to kind of create the entrance. And there's still a bit of glitchy stuff going on here, but I'm not going to bother fixing that, as you probably won't notice it unless I point it out like I just did. I also fixed up a whole lot of these houses since they were on weird slopes. I went through and try and line these up as best I could so that in the driving video it doesn't look very glitchy. I think there were like a few traffic glitches, like cars cutting through the bus and stuff, but what best can I do unless I record for like 1 hour like 5 times and pick the best one? But I wasn't going to do that, was I? Basically because the frame rate's so bad, I just have to keep re-recording the same thing over and over again. But yeah, anyway, you come down one of these streets. I think that street I went down might not have even been the one that the bus goes on, but I mean it looked relatively fixed up, so that's the point. And you eventually come past more areas like this with a whole lot of fallen leaves. I just added some like, why is this doing that? I like zoom out and all of a sudden it wants to take off. I added like some more subtle details, like fallen leaves along these cliffs here. I mean, you don't notice them that much, but they're just sort of subtly there in the bus ride when you come along. And these ones here, I mean, there's some weird terrain things going on with the cliffs and things, but it's honestly not that important in the big scheme of things. And I mean, I think the main thing about this series is just currently just the colours, because somehow I managed to get it right. I think it's just between a whole lot of different settings, constantly tweaking around to make the shadows sort of show through in the right way. I think if we go around this way, it looks quite a lot different than what it does on the other way around, because you've got like these shadows in the trees and they just sort of make everything look a lot more realistic. I think I did end up toning the shadow strength down a little bit during this episode, as I was sort of struggling with seeing in the shadows when building, and also for the bus ride, if they're too overpowering it just looks like you're driving through some black abyss or something. But I did change that slightly, and I mean there's a few glitches and things here that we're just going to keep ignoring from this series, but that's about it for the bus ride. And in the next few episodes we are going to be working basically from where we were working on today right around to this suburb, finishing that off, and maybe doing some stuff around here, making some touch-ups here, deciding what to actually do with that area, and potentially coming around and adding some more things to this oil power plant that we built in episode 16. I mean, it is relatively done, but I'd just like to do some more stuff on the other side of this train line, as well as fence it off. I still like how this stuff kind of goes over this whole area, and I mean you can walk in between it, but it's sort of there to connect up all these tanks to the power plants so that they can just pump oil through and fire the however oil power plants actually work, just fire it and burn off the oil and create power for the whole city and more. I think one of these power plants is enough to power the whole city, and I have 3 of them, so go do the math. I have an excessive amount, but I imagine that this would be made to power more than an entire city, as usually that's what happens in real life, is you'll have one big power plant every so often and it might power a few small cities and like part of one massive one or something, but you've got that there anyway. And yeah, we're probably going to finish up this series within like hopefully 3, maybe 4 or 5 episodes, and then move on to a new series which I still haven't started, as I haven't even managed to finish this series yet, but I'm really eager to start that series, so the sooner I get this series finished, the better for me at least. I mean, you might be disappointed at missing out on all these colours and things, because my next series will not replicate anything as sort of photorealistic as this in terms of the colours, or at least not until I work it out a bit better. I sort of think that just the way this colour settings pop can't really be replicated with like a series set in summer or something where the trees are all green, but I think it's a sort of a mix of settings that make things look so good. Anyway, I'm just rambling for the sake of rambling, so if you've enjoyed this episode and this little oil refinery thing, leave a like. And if you're new to my channel and want to see more of my videos, including the bus ride video which will be out in 2 weeks time, and another episode from like building that should be out in 4 weeks, subscribe to my channel and ring the notification bell, that way you'll get notified whenever I upload a video. Thank you for watching and enjoy the cinematics for this one. Take care.